Hey, 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 welcome back to an all-new episode of The In-Between. I'm your host, Elizabeth Cheney, and guess what, y'all? Joshua Dairen's back in the house. That's right. So maybe you remember him from a few weeks ago, but Joshua Dairen, so he is a paranormal content creator, basically superstar. He's got a huge following on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. I'm sure you've seen him in one of those places. And if not there, guess what else he does? He's a contributor to Alabama Vintage, BuzzFeed Unsolved, and most recently, drumroll please, Tubi's Scariest Places in the World. I mean, we are in royalty right now. Paranormal royalty. Hello, Joshua Dairen. But that's not all. In case you forgot, or in case you're new, he also owns a coffee shop with his wife. So I don't know how he sleeps. Maybe he's a vampire. I don't know how he manages to do all of this, have a smile on his face, and be the best dad and just best person. But he's amazing, and I am blessed to be in his company. So Joshua, thank you for joining me again.
Well, that was really kind, but I'm always glad to be back here talking with my twin, my best friend, good friend, whatever you want to call it. My
twins from a past life.
Yep. Yeah.
Before we started recording, we were talking, and I was like, "All right, so I'm gonna present you as my introspective existentialist bestie. Are we cool with that?" To which you were like, "Hell yeah, bring it on."
Yeah. I'd be insulted if I wasn't. So
exactly, for sure. So since you've been on, anything you want to share with the podcast audience that you got that's new? I mean, you've been doing so many different things. I can't keep up, but it's really fun and amazing to watch you grow.
Well, thank you. Not really. I'm working on some, I guess, important things in the background. I'm working on a couple of TV shows. I don't know if I should say this out loud, but oh well. I'm manifesting. Put my own power into things enough to not really be fazed by any negativity. So yeah, I'm working on a couple TV shows. I'm hoping that they go through. You might see me in some more places, and yeah, that's pretty much it. And go watch my other stuff.
You heard it here, folks. You heard it here first, folks. He's leaving your phone screens and moving to your TV screens. I mean, this is amazing. So, are the shows going to be focused on paranormal, or are we going to dabble in other areas?
We're going to dabble in some other areas. They're going to be kind of paranormal, kind of history, kind of mystery. There's a couple of different things. So it's not just going to be paranormal. As much as I love the paranormal, I want to explore more. I love archaeology. I love treasure hunting. I love history. So it's going to be bringing some of those elements into a well-rounded series, I guess. If it can be greenlit, I think we'll be cooking with some grease.
Well, if you ever need anybody else to join you on a treasure hunt, I'm down. I mean, I've seen Pirates of the Caribbean, so I think I'm qualified.
I mean, just to have a friend with me, like, you got it.
And you don't have to pay me. Just feed me. Just feed me some food, and we'll be good. We'll be set. So that's all that matters. Well, that's really cool. Before we even get started, I just want to know, how do you juggle it all? Like, and I genuinely mean that, because you push out content very consistently. Like, God, goals with you, sir. One day I will be on your level with that being so consistent and so great. But I mean, you are not just a husband and a father, but you are an entrepreneur, business owner, and then you do have all this content creation and other projects, side projects. So how do you manage to do this and not lose your mind?
I don't. I feel like I'm kind of crazy. So I really do try my best to just prioritize, but there's so many things that slip between the cracks. So it's really just a matter of, okay, like, what's the highest priority? Can I tackle that first? And then can I get the other things? So now that's really what I'm kind of working on in terms of juggling everything. So I'll wake up really early in the morning. I'll go to the coffee shop. If I have time, I'll go and do some research for videos, whether it's for Vintage or BuzzFeed or just myself. And if I don't have time, then I'm like, okay, I got to push it off. I can't think about it. Just kind of set it aside and just know I'm going to get to it eventually. In between there, it's tending to the customers first. So when they come in, I stop thinking about all that and I just focus on the customers. So usually I'll get a chance to go home. I'm usually closed. So I'm usually at the coffee shop all day. And what better place than a coffee shop to get stuff done?
True.
Well, it works on the other side, not so much as the owner, but I try. And then I come home, I play with my daughter, and she usually goes to bed around, I don't know, 2.5 hours after I get home, and then I'm back at it again. So I'll either put in some recording time, I'll put in some research time where I'm putting it on paper and writing scripts, record a podcast. Just kind of get that done like before or after my quality time with her and my wife, and yeah, then I'm back to sleep. I'm usually in the bed pretty early so that I can wake up early again. And that's pretty much it. There is no real tried or true way that I've been able to figure it out. It kind of changes every week. But yeah, so for now, I'm kind of sane and kind of happy and kind of positive and kind of healthy. So we're doing good for now. Let's circle back in a month and we'll see.
Got it. I'm impressed that you can just shut it off, because like my ADHD and anxiety heard that and I was like, wait, so all your to-dos aren't just like lingering in your brain bothering you of like, you haven't done me yet, you need to do this, like, because I'm like, okay, I'm getting there. But that's impressive. So yeah, we'll circle back in a month and see how everything's going. But
yeah. And I will say, I don't quite just shut it off. I just don't think about it. So in a very Gemini way, I just don't, I just procrastinate. I say, okay, like it's really just a really refined form of procrastination more than anything.
So you're a professional procrastinator is what you're saying.
Professional. I've learned how to procrastinate but still get stuff done. Because it's the whole thing of you can try to carry it in your head, at least for me, because I do have a short attention span. It's very short. If any wind blows through, I'm getting carried off with it.
I love that. That's actually a beautiful way to say that.
I'm getting swept away. So I've learned to start making lists. So I will do that. That kind of helps me shut my brain off sometimes.
Yeah.
So like I'll get a piece of receipt paper and I'll jot down, okay, I got to do these 3 videos. I got to cut the grass when I get home, just so that I don't, want to put my car in neutral and just jump in front of it. So it's I haven't quite mastered it, but I'm getting to the point of being able to manage it. So don't give me too many props.
I will give you some props. Fine. I'll take back some of my props and give you like half the props that I was giving you. But secretly, I'm going to give you all of them. But I was just going to say, I am similar to that. And that's like one thing that I've been learning about my ADHD in the past year. I'm like, wow, all of these things about me that I either judge myself for or were just like, get it together, Liz. I'm like, wow. So it's my brain. And so I've been like learning how to manage that better. Lists are a big thing. So, and that kind of, I didn't even intend to do this, or maybe I did, but that question kind of segues into the conversation we were talking about having today, which is about, what's advice to our younger self, but also like, how do you get out of your own way? So really a conversation like how you're talking about, how do you juggle it all, right? That's a lot. You've got your goals and I almost said dreams, but yeah, goals and dreams with your content and your personal brand, but then you also have all these other responsibilities that you can't let go of. So, since you are such a beautifully introspective soul, I was like, well, are you cool with this? And you're like, yeah. So I pulled a bunch of questions from this friendship card game I have, and little did I know that they were great interview questions. So we're just going to start asking, I'm just going to start, me and my other personalities, I just said we're again, oh my gosh, wow, she's really coming out. I'm just going to start asking you these questions, and we're going to see where the conversation goes. But first and foremost, very happy to have you, and let's just put you on the hot spot. Hopefully it's not the hot spot. I need like a music here. Okay, so here we go. You're a content creator, so you're always on social media. I feel like your following seems very positive and like good people, but I'm sure you get some trolls or some negative Nancys and things like that. So the first question I want to ask you on the spot is, how much do you consider and care about other people's opinions of you?
That is a great question. I think when I first started, I cared a little bit too much. When you're trying to build something, in my opinion, you're always going to have people who project what they're not doing onto you, or they see somebody who's similar to them and don't like to see them do what they think that they could be doing, even though they haven't put in the work to do what you're doing. So when I first started, I just cared way too much. Any little comment would just send me down a tailspin. I would be up in arms about it. I'd be like, y'all don't understand. Like, I'm trying real hard. And I think once you can kind of center what your purpose and your intention is behind what you're doing, those kind of comments subside. So now my block button's really good. If somebody comes in an attitude or spirit that I don't think is good for not just me, but my community and creating the environment that I'm actively trying to create with what I'm doing, especially how nuanced and niche it is, I just block. Or my favorite thing is to just kill them with kindness and kind of pitch it back to them. If I ever do comment, which is very rare, just wishing them that, they have the day that they deserve, so that they'll sit and think about why I said that and maybe change. Trolls are very committed to what they do. Negative people are very committed to being negative. And so you can't change everybody. But I do believe that over time and over the interactions, they'll continue to see, okay, like, he's not playing around. Like, I've gone through all of his videos. I could say something negative. He'll ignore it. He'll block it. He'll delete it. He'll do what he has to do. And so I don't have a space here. So going back to the question, I used to care too much. And now I care just enough for the people who are really engaged with what's actually happening. If you show some engagement, even if you disagree, I don't mind having a conversation, because I think that disagreement is healthy. Skepticism is healthy. You not being into the paranormal or the history or the true crime is okay, because we all have different interests. So I'm not going to bash you. And I do think that your point is valid if you say, hey, this isn't really my vibe. Like, this is cool. Or, oh, I just think that's an urban legend. I will either 9 times out of 10 probably either agree with you, or we can have a conversation and say, that may be true for you and that's valid. And for other people, they've had experiences and they're valid too. So this is a space where everybody can be valid. But when it comes to, the trolls and the negative Nancys and the people who are just intent on ruining your day, I don't care, actually. Well, I take that back too. I kind of care. I care enough to wish them the day that they deserve. And then I stop caring, because now it's on them to do the self-work past that, if they're even willing to do so. And then I'll probably block them.
Super, super, super sweet. Then bye. Love that. And that kind of dabs into advice to your younger self. And younger self could be 10 years ago. It could be last week. Sometimes for me, I'm like, damn, the younger self 5 minutes ago learned that lesson. I like your approach on that you kind of kill them with kindness. You learned your balance with what you need and what you're going to allow into your energy. But then on the sub side of that, you're like, but I'm also going to sprinkle a little positivity on them. I love that. So that's great.
Yeah. And I've actually had some people change their tunes because they didn't expect me to respond to them. And sometimes, I've learned that not everybody's just responding out of being a troll. Sometimes you're talking about a place that they frequent. It could be in their backyard. It could be their church, their school, their college dorm. It could be their university as a whole. It could be just an area that they go to, like a park, and they respond out of fear. And then once you start talking to them, they're like, I didn't feel that way, but now I can kind of see that. And I really try to approach people like I do with the paranormal. I do believe in the paranormal, but I always try to logic my way out before I have a response. So I think people are very similar in that regard. It's like, if you're approaching me in this certain way, I'm going to dissect why you approached me in this way, and then logic my way out, and then kind of pivot my response to that.
I like that. And it's very thoughtful. Not that I get those kind of comments, but I like that you are very intentional in your responses. You're just an authentic guy. You're an authentic person on the internet. You're not fake. What you see is what you get, and I love that. So on that note, have you ever struggled with your self-esteem, and how did you handle that?
Oh, yeah, big time. Honestly, this era of Josh is not one that's very old. This is a new kind of version of myself. So if I had advice to myself, my younger self, in getting the confidence, it's, for one, disregard anything my parents have to say about the journey and the process and what it takes. The biggest generational curse, I think, has been my parents just doing things to get by, which understandably, just coming from my community, but just thinking that that's the only way that things can be done. And also just being confident in my curiosity as well, because I used to get in so much trouble with my parents because I would challenge them, not from a sense of disobedience or rebellion, but simply because I wanted to know more. Why are you telling me to do X, Y, and Z? Why are you telling me to do it this way? Just explain it to me and I can understand, so I can think about it myself. So when I would do something that wasn't consistent with how they thought, they would question me, and then they would question me some more. So they would almost flip the script and start questioning me and ask me why I did it, and then take it down to a notch where it's like I'm not actually thinking about what I'm doing, which was never the case. So that kind of built some self-esteem issues when it came to doing creative things, because creativity relies on so much of yourself to be confident in the talents and the gifts and the passions. Something that I've come across recently that I've been introspecting, because that's really all I do these days.
Same here.
Is your purpose is your passion meeting your talent.
Ooh.
So it can't just be a passion. It has to be your passion meeting a talent. And so you're...
Love that, by the way. And just FYI.
Well, thank you.
We're getting that on a t-shirt. That's great.
and your passion, it's all well-rounded. It's all a circle, because your passion is going to be your purpose meeting a frustration. So it's like all those things are intertwined. So if you don't have a good handle on any one of those three, then it's hard for you to get confidence in what you're capable of doing. Because you can be talented but lack the passion, and you can have passion but lack the talent, and you can have both of those things but not be frustrated enough to have a little bit of that negative reinforcement to push you to keep going. Because sometimes it's not just the positive reinforcement that keeps you going. Sometimes it's a negative reinforcement, which is, what am I not seeing in this specific area that makes me want to use my talent and marry it with my passion to create a solution. And circling back, I'm going to make this circle back. I have struggled with self-esteem, and I have rather talented siblings, but that's a whole other can of worms. So being kind of under their thumb, I guess, or always being touted as like the lesser talented sibling, also boosted my lack of confidence, because I never saw myself as being able to accomplish things without it having to be attached to my siblings or other people. And now, I'm learning that I've been talented. I've honed my gifts, and it despite me using it for other people so often before I used it for myself, it still gave me the ability to prepare and know how to use what I have and be more aware of what I have, and say, hey, like, I'm just as talented, if not more talented. And even if I'm not more talented or I'm less talented, nobody's going to outwork me when it comes to this thing. So my talent is going to match my work if my work doesn't actually overcompensate for the talent that I have. So no matter what, I'm secure in my ability to bring something to the table every single time. And it just took having to rehash trauma from my childhood. It took me having to realize what the actual generational curses were for me, coming from my family line and what I've seen and what I've grown up with and my background. And it took me having to take all those things and say, I refuse to be a product of my circumstances. I refuse to be a product of my family. I refuse to be a second fiddle. I'm a first fiddle. Everybody has their ability to be a first fiddle in something. I am number one, and I have to look at myself that way and present myself that way as well, so that people can also pick up that while in the process of me being authentic, I'm just as confident in my abilities to give you something that you will like.
I love that. I love that so much. And, when you started talking about purpose and this, I was like, okay, I grabbed that stack of questions, and then you started going in a different direction. I was like, ooh, because guess what? I got questions all day, all layers of this introspective combo. So, I before we get into like kind of the purpose and finding those paths and, what you think you bring to the world, I kind of want to stay on this topic of where you've been like limited, sacrifices, things like that, because I think these kind of questions stem into, yes, how do you get out of your own way? The questions I have, so I'm going to mix these up. All right, first one. Do you currently feel stuck in your comfort zone in any aspect of your life?
Yeah, I'll say yeah, actually, because I'm transparent. I will say the reason why I'm working on so many projects right now is to try to push myself to get to another level of content creation. I love where I'm at. And I know this is like, oh, Josh, you got so many people. But on a serious note, I really like to push myself. Once I achieve a goal, I set another goal. And so now it's becoming more than just like, hey, that's that TikTok guy. I want to be able for people to look at me and say, no, that's not just a TikTok guy. He is legitimately creating content that supersedes just one medium. Like, I need Joshua to be a part of X, Y, and Z. I need him to speak on this. I need him to go to these places. And so I do feel a little stuck in my content creation journey right now. I'm not like down or anything about it, but I definitely see the next goal that I want to achieve. And it gets a little hard to figure out how to get there, I think. because going back to the confidence thing, I'm confident in my abilities to create whatever's asked of me, but I don't necessarily have, like a blueprint laid out to say, okay, now you've made it to this peak and you need this many followers to get here and you need to contact this agency to get you here. I don't know. But I think that's the beauty of it, though, too, because I would have never expected that I'd be where I'm at now when I started. And so I could say I feel a little stuck there. And that's pretty consistent. I've been feeling that for a while. And part of it has gone into quitting my job so that I can actually put more focus and time into what I want to do, because it was starting to get a little loosey-goosey, and I want to be hyper-intentional with the stories that I actually do.
Yeah. On that note, so talking about comfort zone, feeling stuck there, do you think there's anything holding you back from your personal growth or authentic self? So that's just like an extension of that question.
I think I'm due for another risk. I'll say that.
Ooh,
I think
what
I
do you mean
could
by
use
that?
it. I think I could use something that's going to make me have to rely on faith alone. That
In yourself?
Like just straight up, like here's the
Ooh, I love
opportunity.
this.
There's nothing in between here to tell you that this is going to be successful or it's going to fail, and you have to get here and figure it out. So I think it's going to be a choice that I think a choice that I have to make is going to be something that pushes me, I guess, that next thing. So me finding my groove has kind of held me back a little bit, because I think that when you find your groove, you could just ride the lane. And this is a 1-lane road. I need it to be a 2-lane road. So I need to be able to choose, like, do I need to be in the left lane or the right lane? So a risk would be really good for me right now, I think.
So do you think you're going to have to make any sacrifices? Like in this question is maybe not even just right. Like, yes, I'm asking for this, what you're talking about, this risk. Like, do you think it's going to have to be, I'm going to have to sacrifice maybe some friend time or this, or maybe cut back on this kind of content, but also just sacrifices in general? Because I feel like, well, first off, I want to talk about like the no blueprint, and that is the terrifying part of this journey, but it's also the one that I love. I mean, before I started the podcast, I did not like unknown. I liked plans. I mean, I was the kind of girl that if you went to a amusement park, I needed a plan for like which rides we were doing, what order that made the most sense. Like, okay, here's the entrance, we're gonna go here, just right? Like I'm sure there are some diagnoses there, but that's how I was. And this whole journey has taught me the beauty and the excitement and sure nerve, but just all of the good parts of just free falling, and like you figure it out as you go kind of thing. So you can talk about sacrifices in this specific example, because I have personal interest in just knowing that too, because we have similar goals and things like that, but also on a broader standpoint, broader scope.
Yeah. I definitely think it's going to go down to me saying no. That's going to be the biggest sacrifice for me, because I'm so focused on taking almost every opportunity that seems like it's a good fit. And I'm going to have to start becoming a little bit more specific and even more thoughtful as to what I can do and what I'm capable of doing, just so that I can have more time to do what I need to do. And it's hard to pass up opportunities because usually they drive you to the next one.
Right.
So I'm going to have to make some no sacrifices pretty soon. Again, outside of just quitting my job. I think we talked about this last time, about the season of no. That's kind of where I'm at right now. I can foresee more people wanting like my services for other things, or wanting to collaborate on things, and I just will not be able to, because I won't have the bandwidth. Eventually, I'm going to get stretched too thin, and then nobody wins in that situation.
I completely agree. That's great self-awareness. Well, I feel very grateful to have you on the podcast, The In-Between.
Well, I'll always make time for this, so that this is not in that category at all.
Well, I guess it pays to be family. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Oh, goodness. Okay, so 2 questions on this trend run right now. So in what ways do you feel that you are limited, and who or what is your current biggest threat? Time could be your threat, by the way. It doesn't have to be a person.
Okay. Well, money.
Yeah.
Money is is my biggest limit, only because like I don't have, somebody just drop $100,000 off on my doorstep and I just solve all my problems with that.
That happens? Tell me where to sign up.
If it does, I need to find it.
Give us the club. Give us the newsletter, please.
I do think that's That's probably my biggest limitation, because money would allow me to from a resource standpoint, would allow me to do a little bit more. So purchase some things that I kind of have needed for a second to make my content better. And you know how that goes. It takes time because everything's so expensive. But on the flip side, my biggest threat, that's a great question. You know what? I do have an answer to this. My biggest threat in this field are people who, this is kind of a two-part, people who are, one, afraid of diversity in the space, and two, inauthentic people in my space. And by my space, I mean the one that I work in, not one that I have any ownership in. Because I think that with more authentic style creators, and by authentic, I mean like creators who are just going to give you the facts, the stories. They're not going to go and like make something haunted that's not. They're not going to go and try to hype up a place that it's not, or try to capitalize off of some type of like hard tragedy and try to turn it into look at me content. Right. I think that those are the biggest threats to what I do, because when you have those people there and when they come in full force, less people care about what I do and more people care about the thrill that comes from that. We are a very thrill-driven society, and a cheap thrill can distort a slow burn faster than anything, I think. So I think that's my biggest competitor. I don't say much. I just kind of watch. I kind of see like what kind of content people gravitate towards, and mine's gonna be a while. If I ever do hit like 1 million followers or something, it'll probably be when you do. True. When I need to manifest that.
Brittany Crabb taught me how to talk like in the present tense. She's like, "You're not getting to this. You are this," and I'm like, "Damn right, babe. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you were right about that." Well, when I get to 1 million followers, it most likely won't be without some of those hurdles, like having to jump those hurdles and actually captivate people who just want just the story. Like that's all I give you. I just give you a story, nothing more, nothing less. No bells, no whistles, no music, no nothing. I just give it to you plain. If it's haunted, I'll talk about it. If it's not, I'll say, hey, like people want to make this haunted. It's not. So that's my long-winded answer that I could have made really short about my biggest threat.
No, I love this because this is a way for everyone to get to know who you are outside of just the like you said something earlier that I was thinking, oh my God, that could be a great tagline. Paranormal, history, mystery. That's like, your three groups, even though you give this like awesome, amazing, like introspective advice in your stories. So you are a very well-rounded, layered onion, as you said earlier, before we started recording.
Yeah. Or parfait. Or cake.
Or parfait, yes. What movie are we quoting? Come on, y'all. Y'all have to know. Parfait. Everyone loves cake. So what lessons have you had to learn the hard way?
Trust has to be earned in the creative space. And also that being yourself is going to take you further than trying to fit in a mold that somebody else says that you have to fit in to be successful. And number 3, that sometimes there is no door. Sometimes you have to make the door. Sometimes you have to go on YouTube. You got to learn how to build a door. Then you have to go on YouTube and learn what kind of wood you need. And then you have to go to Lowe's, and then you have to go and get the wood, and you have to put it together. And you got to put a lot of hard labor into just creating the door. And then you have the plight of having to open it. And so that might be the biggest one, because I'm always a person as a Gemini. I love collaboration. I love working with people. I love just being attached to things without even having to be like the spotlight or even like play a major role. I just like being a part because I like to be helpful. And so that kind of ties into the trust thing. When you like to be helpful, sometimes you trust a little bit too easy, and you surround yourself with people who may not have your best interest because you think that because you've gotten common ground, they think like you. You think that they're going to be transparent like you, and you think they're going to want to give like you. You think they're going to want to help you like you help them. And that's usually not the case. I had to learn that the hard way. And then I had to learn that, the door situation. I had to go and build my own door. I wanted to do some things in this lifetime, and I wanted to do them with certain people. I could not do them with certain people, so I have to do it by myself and then get those people as I'm building. Which brings me to number 4, building laterally is always going to be way more important than trying to build vertically with people. It's very important that as creators or whatever we're doing, that we look side to side and not up and down when we're choosing people to work with. Because as you find those people who are lateral with you, you all will climb the stairs together because you're all building on the same project. Even if it's not the same house, you're still building on the same project. So you still are getting the affirmations that you need, the validation that you need, the help that you need, the talent that you need. You're getting all of those things, and you're also able to give those things so that they can also build their house. And I think so many of us are focused on trying to build this great big kingdom and mansion when we need to be focused on building the neighborhood. Because a neighborhood is a safe space. A kingdom is a pedestal. And that's the biggest lesson that I've learned. So I had to reshift my brain entirely. I would say you caught me in 2019. There'd have been a little clout chasing, I'm not going to lie to you. Because you like going to the attaching yourself kind of thing. You want to attach yourself to this person who you know who's on the rise. Like, you know that you have talent that you can contribute, but you don't really care about what they're doing. You know they don't care about what you're doing, but you think if you could squeak in and be disingenuous to yourself and them, that they will carry you along. And that's never the case. It never happens. It never works out. It never pans out. But, you know, going back to the other point, switching that mindset and saying, okay, I need to look to who is just as talented as I am, or just as passionate and ambitious, and has also that level of self-awareness. Like, who are those people? How can we work together? How can we help each other? Because the kingdom is also a lonely place. The neighborhood is not.
I love that. You know, I'm going to be as bold and say that I feel like that with you. I mean, obviously you're farther ahead of me in your content and your growth, but I think that's a beautiful way to say that. And I completely agree. And I felt like it's so nice to have that commonality because it's a lonely journey. And I love the metaphor of a neighborhood versus a kingdom. I've had similar things. I mean, I haven't collaborated with anybody, you know, crazy yet other than you and Brittany, but what am I saying here? There's been people that I've interacted with where I think, oh, this is it. Like, not that this is the break, but I'm like, oh, they've got a huge following, this or this. And no, they don't care. I mean, it wasn't like such a slap in the face. I was so depressed, but it was like, okay, before I get well into this world, that was a lesson to learn that people just looking out for themselves sometimes. Yeah. So it is best to look around you in your inner circle. And that also extends even just outside the content world, like looking for a mentor, growing in your career, like think about who you associate with at work, associate with you know, at school or with your friends or anything like that. I think that's a very beautiful way to look at that. You're going to go far, friend. You're going to go far. We're both going to go far. We're both.
I believe that. You know. and also on that note, I think you find more genuine interest and interactions with the people who are lateral. So that's why I do relate to you and people like Brittany and all the fantastic people that we've met in this world. And just a last little metaphor, because I'm really, or analogy, because I'm really not normally good at these. For some reason, when I'm on here with you, I get really good at them. But, you know, if you see a kingdom or, you know, a castle on fire, I mean, you're just going to look at it and say, huh, that sucks. But if you see a house on fire in your neighborhood, you're going to stop, you're going to get out, you're going to see, why is Miss Anderson still there? How can you help? Can you get a bucket of water? You know, even your bucket of water may not do anything, but you're going to get out, you're going to help. And then when the fire is out and everybody's safe, you're then going to lend a hand to help rebuild said home that was on fire. When the fire is out in the castle, you won't touch it. You just say, well, it was cool while it lasted, I guess. I hope they enjoyed it. They had it for this amount of time. It's burned up now. And that's kind of how I feel like we have to position ourselves in life too. Not be so obsessed with building our kingdom that we disregard that a neighborhood is even more important, because it works both ways. A kingdom works one way, neighborhood works both ways. And I try to do that even when I'm goal setting. Like, I want to do all these great things and I want people to know me and look to me as a resource, but I don't want to do that without being able to not only bring the people around me along, but also bring people that I meet along the way along as well, so that they can also get the benefits of that as well. And I can help them, they can help me. we're all happy. It's a bunch of genuine, authentic people around me, and we can actually enjoy it together without having to deal with, the negative traits that come with sometimes falling below somebody or advancing past somebody, quote unquote, like, advancing and falling, which is all subjective, by the way. So
I really appreciate that perspective, and I agree. Yeah, when you are looking more laterally, you are going to find more genuine. And I think authenticity is so important, especially as, I'm not trying to get too meta with all this or like crazy into it, but with AI, look at what like they're striking over right now in Hollywood, like having like the rights to their humanness. No, I'm not going to sell off for AI or this or this. And it's just, the more we get into this digital space, like, and social media and influencers, content creators, whatever, especially if you're in the world as that, like content creators as we are, keeping that authenticity at the forefront is so important, because I genuinely think that it's going to be even more important as we go on as a society, because people are going to start to wake up. People already are, and it's just, no one wants the sugar sweet perfect. They want, like, everyone has struggles, everyone has problems, and to surround yourself with those people when you come up, like, to spread that messaging, it's only going to grow you and make you a better, well-rounded, more approachable, like, person to follow.
Yeah, and even when, the occasional, like, everybody's going to lose their way at some point, you have people who are like, hey, like, don't forget all the work you took to get here. Get yourself back to where you need to go. And you could say, okay, I trust this person. This person's been with me for this amount of time. I need to get myself back to where I need to go. So, yeah, I really like that question because I think it's important.
Well, I'm glad you liked it. And just to piggyback on what you just said, I completely agree. Because on this solo journey, it's you, yourself, and you. So it's good to have those people that you can trust and, like, hey, if I can give you some feedback, because, like, obviously I think you're fantastic, and vice versa, and there's that mutual respect. So not just in content creation, but in life in general, I think everyone listening, that should be your goal. Like, keep those kind of individuals around you. Okay, so how do you keep yourself going when you lack motivation? How do you not get burnout? And bonus question, when that does happen, how do you get back on the horse?
Yeah, honestly, when I lose inspiration, I know the first thought that I have is, hey, well, let me just go pile in some content and let me go see like what I could find to go make something else. I actually learned that it's best for me to do the opposite, because when I've lost that inspiration, generally that means I'm pretty close to burnout. And I'm starting to understand this with like writer's block. I'm also a musician, so when I'm writing a song and I just stop and I can't like create the rest of the lyrics, like I have to stop. So kind of writer's block. I just walk away, because usually when inspiration's lacking, that means your brain is not, in my opinion, this is not science, so this is pseudo Josh science. I feel like when burnout happens, your brain is no longer functioning at 100%, and you need your brain to function at 100%. And I know it's like 10% that we actually use, yada yada. Yeah. But nonetheless, that you're not using the full capacity of your brain. You're not capable. And the more that you punch a wall, eventually there's going to be a hole in it. So now, if you keep pressing when you lose that inspiration, I feel like you're going to actually turn yourself away from being able to find a solution faster. So when that happens, I walk away. I just straight up stop. So there will be times that you'll see, even with me creating videos, where you won't see anything from me for a second. And when you don't see anything from me for a second, it's because I am taking a brain break. That way I can give my best self, because some of my worst videos were the ones where I was like, I'll just need to push through. Sometimes it's good to know when not to push through. Sometimes it's good to know when to stop. And you can always know when it's good to stop, when your inspiration's lacking and you start looking at the thing that you love as a chore, because it should never be a chore, because the things that we normally pursue are things that we ingest on a daily basis, with or without there being an end goal. Right. So I'm always thinking about ghost stuff, because that's what I like. That's what I'm passionate about. Even when there's no end goal, you just want to know. It's the things that you can find in the middle of your day where it's just like, oh yeah, I have been doing that. I have been putting in the work. So when I reach my points of burnout, I guess I stop. I go and I enjoy something else that's not related to this, and I just take it in, and then that's it. I say there are no goals for today. Goals have ended. I will circle back in the morning. If I feel the same way, I'll circle back in the night. And if I'm in the same way, all right, we're going on day 3. And it's worked. I mean, that's my like really toned down first solution. Because as you know, I have like 3 different ways that I do everything. I don't have just one way ever.
Right.
And like last time I said I go touch grass, that's also what I go do. I literally go and touch grass. Today was a hard day at work today, and we had people back to back to back. When I had a time away, I was getting a little burned out with making coffee. I just went outside and just breathed in the hot sun, and I felt better, and I came back inside. So it's not always like, exactly. So it's not always just stopping, but when it comes to creating, that's kind of my go-to. Stop creating, and then you'll create some more.
You know, I hope this isn't a silly question or statement, but hearing you say that was really that was beneficial for me personally to hear as well, because sometimes when I get burnt out with the podcast, I think to myself, oh my gosh, Liz, like you don't even have the huge following yet. Why are you burnt out now? And it's like, why I don't think about the 9 to 5. I don't think about the other things. I don't think about like just doing all this by myself. And hearing you say that, having the following that you do, but also just hearing a human being say that in general, it is forgiving for myself, and I hope other people listening, like burnout does happen. It doesn't mean it's the end. Because sometimes when I think of burnout, I think, oh God, we're done. Because it's like I associate maybe depression or whatever. And there's different levels of it. And it's good to hear and reinforce the idea that, hey, when you've hit the E, your tank is gone. All right, we got to fill it up. Doesn't mean that you're not going to get back on the road.
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes 3 days, sometimes it takes a day. So thank you for sharing that, because I think it's important for anyone listening, whether you're a content creator, an entrepreneur, you're trying to get a promotion. I mean, right now the job labor market sucks. Maybe I'm in several women empowerment groups on Facebook, and I see so many people are like, I'm on interview number 21, just put fingers crossed for me kind of thing. And it's exhausting. So it's also like hard to, as the individual, to stop yourself when you're reaching that threshold of like E. So, everyone listening, it's important to, when you do that, to rest, fill back up. Because, like, yeah, you're not going to produce the best content. And I definitely ran into that in the beginning, like feeling like I had to always have an episode, always put out content. Basically, what I'm getting at is it's good to hear you say it's important to stop. It's important to give yourself that reset period and to, I don't know, just... Because anytime I get burnt out, my intrusive thoughts come in. Oh, you're not good enough. Oh, you didn't manage this right. You know, so I guess it's good to hear that it's normal and it's just part of the process.
Yeah, and you said something that I really liked. I mean, if we look at ourselves like vehicles, we can only go when we have gas in the tank. And if we're on E, we don't go. It doesn't matter if everything works inside of the car. The gas is still the most important thing. So we have to be very conscious and mindful of that, and then have grace on ourselves, because consistency is really important. But healthy habits and grace on ourselves are also just as important. And sometimes, you know, we fight for the algorithm, because we are fighting for the algorithm every single day. But consistency beats the algorithm. But consistency doesn't always mean back to back to back, like we constantly think, in my opinion. Consistency just means to be present, ever present, whether that means daily, bi-weekly, even if it means taking off a couple weeks. Consistency is showing up, in my opinion. And that's how I look at it, so that I don't put too much pressure on myself. I think we could help each other do that too, so that, you know, in a content-driven world where we're always sort of create. And even, you know, I'm guilty of it. Hard work, that we still are able to say, okay, the hard work is done. I can no longer give anything of value right now. So I'm going to have enough grace on myself to stop and give my brain a rest from always having to try to create something, and just chill. And that's just, you know, easier said than done, as you know, as always. But grace on yourself. It's very important, or else you will get very frustrated. And sometimes, like, I think it's that frustration that causes us not to come back sometimes.
I agree. I completely agree with that.
I've struggled with consistency in terms of just being present in the thing that I said that I was going to do my entire life. And honestly, the new era of Josh has been the most consistent Josh ever, because I'm having grace on myself and saying, I'm going to be a presence here, even if I'm not constantly giving 100% every single day and multiple videos a day.
Thank you for sharing that, because I have fallen victim to that multiple times myself. And then I get this like fear or panic that, oh my gosh, if you stop, then you're not going to start back. Yeah. And I liked what you said about the consistency. Consistency doesn't necessarily mean back to back. Consistency is showing up and being present. So snaps for that. I really liked that. So how do you practice self-care?
Another good question.
Real quick, I want to say you can talk about practices, like things that you actually do, but also when we talk about the burnout, like that's a form of self-care. When you start to feel yourself reaching that point, okay, that's when I pump the brakes on something. So just wanted to give you an explanation of what I'm looking for in that question.
I'll say I drink water. That's definitely one. Because usually I notice that when my burnout happens, I have just been loading up on just trash and caffeine.
Ooh, I bet you drink a lot of coffee. Or do you drink coffee?
I do drink coffee. I've actually slowed down on drinking coffee, but in the process, I drink a lot of caffeine-based things. And so my burnout usually comes around the time where like I'm just trashing my body.
Aren't we all?
Just really just not eating right, not eating when I need to, drinking things that I don't need to drink, like, you know, the occasional Red Bull or whatever.
At least you didn't say those like what is Aaron Paul or Jake Paul's like, is it Prime?
Prime, yeah.
They have some crazy energy drink that's like I don't know, 5 Red Bulls or something nuts, but they're like I don't know. I'm going on a tangent now, but at least you're not drinking those.
Yeah, not cranking back Primes. Not an endorsement to Prime, but not an endorsement to Prime.
Just hey, if you want that caffeine without the Four Loko approach, try a Prime.
And past that, like, I don't even really, I used to say like watch TV, but I don't even really watch TV like that anymore. So if somebody would ask me like, hey Josh, what's current? I don't know, something from like 3 years ago. What do I do? That's a great question. I've never really sat and thought about my self-care routine besides just not doing anything. I think that's really what it is, to be completely honest. That's such a trashy answer for what you asked me, and I'm always like, Mr. Deep, Mr. Below the Surface, but I really just don't do anything. I'll like go sit in a chair, turn the lights down, and just hang out. Go outside.
I love it.
Sit on a lawn chair. Maybe go for a drive. Just let the windows down and go on some roads I haven't been on in a while or ever. Just go peek around some neighborhoods, look for sale signs, and say, hey.
I'm envisioning it. I'm like, there's Josh cruising down the street, wind through his hair, just, introspecting it.
Yeah. Go to the store, go get some ice cream. Like, it really is just whatever I'm feeling. I'm a very, like I said, go with the flow person. If a little bit of wind comes, I'm getting carried that way. And especially when I stop doing stuff, wind picks me up very nicely. Very windy guy.
I like that. We could all use a little extra form of self-care. I'm trying to think of like what I do for self-care, and it's like, all I can think about is, Liz, you need to get better practices and systems in place. Like, I need better routines because my self-care is all over the place. I guess I will say I'm just trying to work on self-care, like giving myself grace and patience and the ability to grow and evolve, and also, I don't know, not beat myself up over if I'm not hitting my goals. So that's that. All right. So let's get a little deeper. If we can even do that. Like, can we get deeper? Yes, we can. So these are all kind of similar, and I really like these questions, so I hope you like them too. But first and foremost, what values do you live by?
I could probably sum this up. Humility, good character, trustworthiness, morality, and I don't even really know a good word for this, but, intention. Intention's definitely, like, probably number one on the list, because I think intentions drive everything else. And kindness, for sure.
I think that sums you up really well. Definitely.
Oh, and sincerity. Like, just being sincere. And another one. They're all flowing out now. Transparency and vulnerability. Those two are kind of the same, but kind of not. They kind of have different functions, but they're like the same, two different sides of the same coin.
I agree with that. And dare I say, I feel like I share all the same values, which I'm not surprised. Like, of course, I share the same values as you.
I'm not surprised either.
No, that I agree with all that. Sincerity and vulnerability. I like the way you describe the two of those, because they are different, but they still are the same. Like, sincerity, you are being sincere, you are kind, your reputation, precedes you, well-natured, well-mannered, whatever. And vulnerability is where you can take the wall down. I think vulnerability and empathy kind of fall in line together.
Yeah.
And vulnerability is also like where you can allow someone else to come in who maybe is more afraid, who they can't really get their wall down as much. I think those are, all of those were good.
I was going to say, I would even say vulnerability is even more important because it's such a weird word, especially as like a guy, because guys struggle with being vulnerable and saying, you know, like, I'm meeting you for the first time. I don't have it all together the way I'm trying to present it, even though I'm meeting you for the first time. So here's hoping that you also are willing to present yourself in that way as well, so that we can actually create some type of bond that goes beyond just a surface level interaction. And that's something that the coffee shop has really pulled out of me. I want to dig deep. I want to know, you know, what makes you tick, but not just from the good standpoint. Like, I love when people say they're having a great day, but I also love when people are saying they're having a bad day, because that allows me to get in there and plant some seeds of hope so that they can hopefully come out of that and we could talk about it. And they can see that somebody else either struggles with the same thing or they can relate to it. They have empathy and maybe get some of those traits from me that they might not get out in just the normal world with people who aren't necessarily caring to be intentional with them. So vulnerability is probably one of my favorites because it's such like it can make you cringe if you don't use it or you're not used to it. But I think it's just as powerful as kindness as well.
I agree with you. I think we talked about this a little bit on the last episode, but it's like how you want to leave people better than when you met them.
Yeah.
So I appreciate your vulnerability towards vulnerability. So a few more questions and a fun one, two fun ones at the end. Well, I say they're fun. Okay. Hopefully I didn't just put my foot in my mouth. But okay. So what is unique about you? And what do you think you contribute to the world?
I think what's unique about me is that I can tell you where I'm from, and I kind of don't fit any of the molds that you would place me in. So I say I'm from Alabama, and they're like, oh, you must have played football. And I'm like, yeah, I mean in rec league, but I kind of went the other direction. Or they won't think that I'm into the paranormal or know the urban legends that they're trying to tell me, that I don't have an accent. So I think those things kind of make me unique. But I think this is so corny. I think me makes me unique. I feel like I'm the only person who thinks the way that I do sometimes, even if it is similar to everybody else. And I don't know. I just think I go out of my way to be kind to people. And I think that also makes me kind of unique. I feel like I probably have like every right to just be like some snotty, brat who found some footing in some content creation and just treats people however, because I don't really owe anybody anything, but I try to be the exact opposite. I try to be a unicorn and really just be one of one. So maybe just, I don't even really know how to sum it up. I just think I don't fit the molds that people put me in when they first meet me, and I think that's what makes me unique. That you look at me and say, oh, he likes X, Y, and Z, and then you talk to me and say, oh, wow, like it's the exact opposite of what I was thinking when I saw him. I think once I open my mouth, people kind of get the hint that I'm a little different. But I think just if you were to see me at the mall and the way that I dress and the way that I move, it would probably put me in a specific category of person. And I think I supersede that a little bit with just who I am as a person.
I do agree. And, I think you're unique. I think everyone's individually unique, but I confirm you're unique. And, dare I say, is it the vulnerability? Is it the authenticity? So everyone listening, these are the types of character traits that are important. Don't be afraid to be yourself. You matter. Your uniqueness is unique. And we want to see it. Everyone wants to see it. So, I don't know. I'm asking you these tough questions. I say tough, you know what I mean? Like putting you on the spot, but your responses are so great. And I don't know, sometimes I don't want to say it's hard, but society makes you feel like talking about yourself or talking positively about yourself is narcissistic or this or this, anything negative. And I enjoy this conversation for multiple reasons, obviously, but we can talk about like our strengths and what makes us individually unique and special and what we contribute to the world. And it's not like I'm saying, but I'm the best. I'm here.
Yeah.
No, we're all in this neighborhood together. This is a
Exactly.
great neighborhood. So I appreciate the authenticity of saying all this because I don't know. It's a good reminder, and it's good for everyone to hear.
Well, I appreciate that. And I think that's something that I've struggled with. Like, I do have some weaknesses. I got plenty of them. Organization is number one on the list. I'm the least organized person you will ever meet in your entire life. And
I'm shocked because you're so consistent with your content, everything. I'm like, how if you're so consistent, how are you so unorganized?
Oh, I'm unorganized. Like, ask my wife; she will tell you. And I just forgot what I was gonna say. But that's what I was gonna say. And I do not like conflict. I absolutely hate it. So sometimes my conflict resolution is garbage. I am one of the worst conflict resolution people ever. I will go ahead and admit that on air right now. Like, I'm not good at it. And sometimes I will straight up avoid it. And I know that I need to run head into things and just be firm and be myself. But there comes that, like, the confidence. Like, that's the part of me that I think that I'm building now. The confidence to speak up when I'm in the midst of conflict, and knowing that I'm not losing myself by being assertive and being an authority and commanding respect and demanding attention to set something right that I feel is wrong. So, that's one of the things that I'm personally working on this year, is on top of being no and not feeling like I'm letting people down, but being willing to say, hey, that's not cool, or like, you're not going to talk to me like that. So, like, or I'm being nice, but I'm about to flip the switch. And some of this comes from, like, I used to be the opposite. So I used to be very conflict heavy. Like, I was ready to thump with anybody. But now I'm trying to just be a better human. And so it's always a levers, trying to figure out what levers to pull. And this is me also being vulnerable. I do not get this right often when it comes to conflict, but I do try my very hardest. But I fail often. But without failure, there's no success. So eventually I'm going to get it.
Literally just talked about that on the podcast like a couple weeks ago about failing. Whenever I first started doing the podcast, and I was like, I need slogans. And I was like, Stan, that's my husband. I was like, what do you think of failing up? Failure is cool. And he's like, I don't know if you want to just start it off with like promoting failure, but which he's right. But the context is exactly what you're talking about, that I think failing, you can learn so much from failing. There's opportunity in failure. Yeah. It's like leaning into the uncomfortable. I think everyone's going to fail at some point in your life. And I know that may sound negative, but I don't mean it as negative. And I'm not saying that some failure doesn't end in like really shit situations, but it will make you stronger and you will overcome it. And one thing you said that I just want to comment on, you talked about, I don't want to lose myself, and you're talking about standing up for yourself and using your voice and like just sticking up for yourself, matter of factly. Yeah. And I just want to say that's not losing yourself, in my opinion. I think it's actually, that's you prioritizing your self-worth. Because there's a way to do conflict and handle it and not be a dick or not be rude, but you deserve to fight for yourself or stand up for yourself, speak up for yourself. So don't view it as that. I'm not saying you do, but I think that's a good call out.
And I agree too, because it's very easy for me to like have Kima's back. Like, that's my wife. Easy, like, no problem. But when it comes to doing it for myself, like, that's when it starts getting hard, because now I'm thinking, okay, how would I resolve this if I were standing up for me as a different person who is not me? And sometimes, like, my brain just cannot wrap around like what that actually looks like. But let somebody, disrespect Kima or talk to her crazy. Well, now I'm more than happy to handle it and understand, like, hey, like, I didn't lose my character in doing this, but I set this straight. This won't happen again. And so it's definitely a work in progress. And on the failure note, I don't think failure is an absolute. It only becomes an absolute when we stop moving.
Yep.
And that's when it becomes an absolute. But until then, like, failure is more so just a pivot. If we can look at success and pivots, I think we can do some really cool things.
All right, so that's our next episode topic, okay? Success and pivots. I love it. You heard it here first, folks. Failure is not the end game. Episode 3 coming out soon. I love that. Okay, so this is my last, this related question. Then I have 2 fun questions. Again, I think one of them may not be fun, so I need to stop saying that. Do you believe in destiny and fate?
I do. I believe more so in destiny than fate. I guess I kind of look at those two as 2 different things. They may not actually be. I may be showing everybody how stupid I am. But
I'm gonna stop you right there. I'm literally thinking of like video games and like Kingdom Hearts or something. I'm like Destiny, Fate. Yeah, everyone. I just did Kingdom Hearts. I'm a nerd. I don't care. But but I'm over here like, really, what is the difference between Destiny and Fate? I really don't know.
And of course, because I can't help but be overly deep at this point in my life.
Oh, I welcome that gladly. So you're the best company.
I look at Destiny as like a positive, and I look at Fate as a negative. I think it's more so
I like that.
how they've been given to us in terms of the literature that we read and the mediums that we think of Destiny and Fate in those contexts. So I do and I don't. I believe that we all have a destiny. I believe that we all have a purpose. I believe that we all have something that we have to fulfill or things to fulfill, big and small. So it's not just this grandiose ending that we all have. Sometimes I feel like our destiny is something that happened early on or can happen at any time, and then the rest of it is just us living on the other side of the destiny that we fulfilled. As for Fate, I think nothing is set in stone per se, because I am a big believer in free will. And so I do think that there are canon events that have to happen throughout our lives, but I don't believe that we have to be destined to live out of those things that happen for the rest of our lives for a negative reason. But that's kind of saying destiny and fate. So they're kind of intertwined, but I kind of don't believe them and I kind of do. I guess the best way I can say that is this. I believe that we all have canon events that have to happen. I do believe that we choose a good portion of the things that do happen, and I believe that there are some things that we cannot control, which I guess would consider be technically like fate. But I do believe that there's a bigger overall picture that we play a part in, that we paint. It's really complex in the way that I look at it. Like, we think of the picture, the purpose that we play as like this big grandiose painting like the Mona Lisa, but sometimes like I think that our purpose was to just do the eyeball or one brush stroke on the cheek. And that was our major part, but it contributes to an overall picture. And so we can live outside of that brush stroke, but also play a huge part in something that is an overall thing, if that makes sense. And we can just live outside of it. So now we go in and live the rest of our lives. But that one thing, that was our destiny, and that's what we were supposed to do. And I think it's hard to even, know what that even is. So I think that on the flip side of that, it's really good for us to not even live thinking about what our destiny or fate is, because we can get caught up on that and try to pull, purpose out of things that may not be part of that, or lean too heavy into the one thing that we think was just really just purposeful, and miss out on enjoying the life that we were given as well.
So I am going to piggyback on that, but I'm going to give it a similar but different spin on the destiny. I agree with everything you said about the fate and free will and all of that. So to me, sometimes I think destiny requires a lot of introspection, but I think destiny, or I should rephrase that. I think your destiny is that, have you ever read The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho?
I haven't.
You should read it. It's a great book. Very simple. Talk about it offline. I just talked about it on an episode a couple of weeks ago, but he talks about this personal legend within you, like listening to this personal legend, which is like this driver, this desire, and not just like, oh, I'm really craving a hot dog. No, it's like so I don't know why I said that, but like what fulfills me, what drives me in this life, in this lifetime. And this is what I mean by, I think it requires a lot of introspection. But to me, destiny could be like, what is that thing? I believe everyone has a calling. And the calling can manifest in different ways. I don't mean just like, oh, I want to help people. That means I'm going to go be, an Oprah Winfrey or whatever. You know what I mean? It could be I'm going to be an EMT or something. But it's just that destiny is like the thing that drives you. And you can ignore it. You can be scared of it. You cannot believe in yourself. I do agree with you with the canon events. Like, I think as long as you are in touch with yourself, that destiny is, from my definition, will present itself in some way. I don't know. But
yeah, I like that.
And on that note, the follow-up question I have to this question for you is, what do you believe is your ultimate purpose in life? I know we're getting there, buddy. You said you cool deepness. Here we are.
I actually do have an answer for this because I've been thinking about this. I've thought about this for a while. I think personally, my overall destiny is to. I've always felt that I was supposed to do something special, and I know everybody has that. Like, oh, I was it, but I really have always felt that with myself, and I don't know what that is per se, but I do know that my kindness and intentional interactions have a part to play in that. And so I've always personally wanted to change how people viewed like celebrities and people who have status or people who have money or people who have done big things or given tons of money away and things like that. Because I think you look at some people who you're like, yeah, those are good people. I think, kind of, maybe. I don't know if they're good people. Like, we don't ever really know. We like them. We like the art that they create. But how often do we ever really get to know that person and really connect with that person? And I don't know if, like, I want to be that person or if I want to help create people like that, where they have good character in high places, where they care about people and as people in high places. And that's always just drawn me. I always thought I was going to be an actor, so this is probably also connected to that too. I feel like my purpose was to change that narrative, is to change the narrative of what a good human being looks like while also being a heavily flawed human being, and creating
I love that.
A shockwave of people who also find that to be true for themselves and relate to that, and then create that for themselves, and then create another shockwave for people who see that, and it just trickles down. And so in the midst of like social culture going to hell and everybody just infighting with each other, you have those people who are in high places who have a firm grasp on their morals, what they believe, who are willing to give more of themselves than just what they create, and just not make you question whether or not they are good or striving to be good or not. You just know because that's their authentic selves. So more transparency in interviews, more regular people things that are relatable. Long-winded answer. I always thought that my purpose would be connected to changing to that narrative, I should say, in some degree.
God dang it, Josh. Same. Like, I mean, not taking away your oh my God, I was going to say clout, but that's not the right word in this example. I don't know why that's what came. But you're light. That's what I said clout instead of light. Oh my gosh. But I believe that for you. I can feel that from you. I'm not saying that if you are born into upper levels that you don't have anything to offer. No, that's not what I mean. But I do think us coming like from the ground up in this sense, in this world, in this life, and keeping that authenticity, vulnerability, sincerity at the front is going to do exactly what you're talking about. And I think I love that for you. And I am confident that is what you are going to do. I feel very similar to that. Like, I felt like my authenticity, my uniqueness that makes me, right? There's only one Liz, there's only one Joshua. Like, I think I'm silly, entertaining, but I also have a freaking fire passion for making people believe in themselves or trying to help people believe in themselves. And not because I have some like self-interest in the game. It's genuinely just like I've learned so much from my own personal strength and all the things I've overcome. I'm like, I want you to learn that because, oh my gosh, it's like a superpower that we all need and we're not taught. And I think that authenticity with our own personal like spin on it is what will have people gravitate toward us and help promote those messages. You know, mine is this, yours is that, but like just, I don't know. Yeah.
And I agree with that too, because I feel like so many people in that position are so afraid of being themselves. Mm-hmm. And I think if you go in with the intentions of understanding what comes with it, you can enjoy your life at that stage, but also not be afraid to be goofy. Like, to be honest, like when I reached that spot, manifesting, lesson learned. When I reached that spot, you know, I don't want to come off as like I'm too good. Like, at the end of the day, I'm from Auburn, Alabama, and I did not come from any kind of money. I had to work for this. I had some breaks, but after the breaks, I had to work for some more. But I'm also a person. Just because I have money or like success doesn't change that. You know, I did show choir in high school, like, and I still like it. And I like normal people things. I'm not eating caviar and Kobe beef every day. Like, I want a Zaxby's.
Zax snack.
Yeah, you know, and but also being willing to, I don't know, just be transparent. I just feel like transparency is so lacking because of the facades of people being afraid to be themselves. And I think more people would find themselves in looking up to people if they had more authentic and transparent people who are already there to say, hey, there's somebody like me. So now instead of me being frustrated because I don't see people like me, I now have someone that I can strive to not even imitate, but just I can strive to hold a place like that as well, it's the same, thing with representation and diversity. You don't know that you can do something until you see somebody else who's broken through the barriers to get there. And I think that we're now at a space where we need more people to break through the barriers, being authentic people who are intentional with their interactions with people and are kind and aren't, excuse my language, but some dickhead celebrity or some like dickhead with clout. Like, I think we need some good people.
I agree.
That's all. Just give me one good person that I don't ever have to question. I just need one. And because one creates two, and two creates four, and four creates eight, and the whole, how it goes.
I love it. How the domino falls. I completely agree with everything that you just said. Starts with one, it starts with two, it starts with three. Yes. And something that I think we both bring is, yes, the authenticity, all of that, but we talked about it even on this episode. We've talked about in the other episode. I know I talk about this all the time on my podcast. We talk about the lows and the negatives and just the human pieces of ourselves because that's important. And I think there is not as much authenticity as you would think there would be, especially with certain things being not trending, but they're more popular, more mainstream now. But there's still a filter for for lack of better words. So I completely agree with that.
And talking about real things, because sometimes you see people who have made it, but they didn't really struggle like that.
Right.
Trying to give advice, and you're like, that doesn't really hit the way that I think it should, or them even being transparent about the throes that they're in, dealing with imposter syndrome, being at that place, or trying to be a good person. I think just those topics don't get brought up as much as they should. It's more so
Agreed.
Superficial, and I want to get away from the superficial.
Same. All right. So last question, which is the one that I'm it's fun, maybe not, but I probably have ruined myself for even giving the roadmap, the what is the airstrip? Runway. I'm what is the word here? The runway I've given to this question has probably failed you, but I apologize. Have you ever experienced an existential crisis?
Ooh, yeah. So many times.
Oh, yeah. Mine are wait, which season, which year?
You talking about this week or?
Yeah. You talking about this morning or right before I started this recording with you? Just kidding.
Wow. Yeah. I would say that it happens pretty regularly. Just maybe a little bit less. But
is that because you're more confident in yourself, you think?
Yeah, definitely. And more confident in the universe's ability to just provide despite me freaking out.
Okay. And what drives the existential crisis? Is it self-doubt? Give me the whole spiel.
So usually when I get an existential crisis, it's always something seems like an immovable mountain. I look at it, I don't have any solutions. All I see is problems, and then that just kind of sends me in a tailspin because I can't logic or outsmart my way out of this conundrum. So that it'll start downhill, and then I start asking people, and they don't have solutions. And so now the world is just full of no solutions and only problems. Whether it's a money related thing, or whether it's overcommitment, or an interaction that you had with somebody that doesn't sit right, or you have to tell somebody something that you don't really want to tell them, and that they don't handle things like that well, or even just putting your foot down. There's so many different reasons why I've had these moments. But I will say, I don't think that things happen without a purpose behind them. So I started trying to look at these crises as canon events. Spider-Man was the greatest thing ever because it just reminded me that there are some things that have to happen for your own personal growth. Spider-Man would not be the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man if he didn't have his Uncle Ben die, because that was the negative reinforcement, but also the positive reinforcement that drove him to be the kindest hero. He's not an anti-hero. He is a pure superhero who's always looking out for everybody, including the villains, 99% of the time. And so that was his canon event. And so I try to start looking at these like that these have to happen. I'm going to be taken care of regardless. The universe is going to provide because it always has. It would never leave me on an island to not have a way out.
Like that.
And in my case, God, but, in other cases, it could be whatever. Whatever higher power that you draw to. I feel like you just have to believe that whatever is watching out over you is going to continue watching out over you, despite how rough and tough this situation seems at the moment. It always does, because you're listening to this podcast right now, having survived your last crisis. We're talking about crises, having survived our last one.
Yep.
And if you can put it in that context, even when you face your next one, you can at least have in the back of your head just a little seed that says, hey, like, you've been through this. You're not what you've done. You're what you've overcome. You're here now going through another crisis, which means that you've already overcome the ones that came. This one may be a little different, but the principle remains the same. Whatever is looking out for me is going to continue to look out for me through this. I'm going to get through this. I'm going to be better for it. I'm going to learn something from it. I'm going to be able to give something to somebody else from this crisis, and I'm going to be able to move forward. And so that's my long-winded way to say, yeah, I go through them all the time. And when we bought the shop, I went through one because I didn't know coffee. I didn't know if my other customer service experience would pivot to this. I started thinking about like the health department, like what do we do? How do we do inventory, milks, licenses, permits? Like what's all this stuff? And it was just kind of a whirlwind. And then on top of that, how I'm going to work my job. I'm going to take care of my child. How am I going to do X, Y, and Z? We're never going to travel again. But we got in and it took care of itself like it always does. It always takes care of itself. And so
that's a good reminder.
Yeah. It's just remembering, like, don't worry. Worrying is wasted movement. Worrying is like being in a rocking chair. Like, you're moving, you're going back and forth, but you're not actually going anywhere.
Yeah, you're just staying there.
Yeah. I'll probably go through one this week, so.
Oh, I'm probably going to have one later tonight. No, maybe not tonight. I'll save it for tomorrow. But I like how you said that, too. Like, it's it happens, and how you go about it is you remind yourself that it has happened, and you got through it the first time, and you're going to get through it again.
Yep.
And unfortunately, bad things do happen to good people. I don't believe in everything happens for a reason. Like, oh, you had to suffer this way. But I do agree with you. I know that's not what you were saying, because I took that as what you were saying is like, but things do happen in your life that will develop you. And sometimes they are shit, and you did not deserve that. You know what I mean? But it is going to change you, and you will overcome it. Maybe it takes longer than some things, but I agree with that.
There are some things that I think we've all healed from that we never thought we would, because it was present and priority number one at the moment. Right. And I agree with that too. I also, when like I'm like trying to comfort somebody, which I do a terrible job, sometimes things just happen. There are some things that are supposed to happen, but there are some things that just happen. So I agree with that too. And just reminding yourself, like, I've either been through worse or this is the worst, but there is another side. Like, if we see a tornado coming down the forest, like, we're like, oh, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. But if it misses us, we look at it and say, you know what? I did survive that storm. This was the worst one that I've ever been in. And now it's sunny outside, and it's, 75 degrees with a breeze. I think that's probably my worst analogy yet. But I think
it was great.
I think the point is there.
And you know what? Piggyback on that analogy. So yes, the breeze, the sun, and then it also, you remind yourself of things that you can avoid for next time. So maybe you don't go walking in the forest when it's pitch black outside, like the dark, stormy clouds, right? Yeah. So it's a good reminder that, okay, you did it. You did overcome the scary, big priority, big monster right in front of you. And then maybe next time it's, okay, well, I'm actually going to do this, and this so that I don't face that monster one more time, And then some things are inevitable, but just the constant reminder that you can get through it, and you will. And just through the pain, through the excitement, through the fear, through the vulnerability, all of the things, the positive, negative, you will get through it.
Yeah.
Joshua, man, I'm always so invigorated after our conversations. Thank you for letting me put you on the hot spot today and just I don't know, ask you all of the deep questions. It's like, dear diary, what does Joshua feel? That's what I just did. Oh my goodness. So before we go, I obviously want you to tee up your social media, but do you have any closing statements for the In-Between audience?
Yeah, I do actually. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to others. I say this all the time if you follow me on social, but really every interaction matters, and how we treat people comes back to us, whether it's for good or for worse. So just be kind, be some light. We can use some light in this world, and yeah, nothing super deep. Just be nice to people as best as you possibly can, because we're not responsible for their response, but we're responsible for ours. So,
ooh, yes,
yeah, just do that for me,
and it'll get you far, 1,000%. Okay, Joshua. So you are obviously amazing. Where can all of the listeners find you?
You can find me at Joshua Dairen, Dairen, pretty much everywhere. Just type it in. It does it. You don't have to put the @ symbol in there. I'll be there. You'll find me, whether it's a video or something. You'll know my face. When you see it, you'll know it. I'm the only person who looks like me. I'll put it that way. Whether that's a good thing or bad thing.
This is a good time to plug that this episode will be on YouTube, everybody, so you can see him in the flesh. Well, I guess not in the flesh, but the video flesh.
Close enough flesh.
Yes.
Virtual flesh. You can go find me covering stories for AO.com's Alabama Vintage page. You can find me on BuzzFeed's YouTube channel under the shorts. I have a couple more videos coming out. They never tell me when until they're about to come out. So, like, just keep your eyes peeled. You'll see me. Like I said, when you see me, you'll see me, and you'll know me, and you'll know me. And you can also find me on Tubi talking about 10 of the world's scariest places. It's actually called Scariest Places in the World. I think it should have been World's Scariest Places, but whatever. So Tubi's Scariest Places in the World, they gave me way more screen time than I thought they would, and I appreciate them for that.
I need to watch that.
It's pretty good, not going to lie. Go and rate it on IMDb. Give it all the 10 stars. I know this is like soliciting reviews, but please do that. It's very helpful and helps all the people in the wonderful cast get casted for more things. So please do that for us. And after that, follow me. I like to talk, so message me. Leave some urban legends and some stories. You want to talk about like live stuff, that too. Oh, go follow the coffee shop page. We're going to be selling beans pretty soon. So if you like coffee and you like medium blend, we are the place. So come shop with us.
I like coffee. Might have to come buy some. And I'm writing down my homework right now. IMDb rating Tubi, Scariest Places in the World. So we'll do it.
Just give us a good old fat 10 star.
Yes,
or 10 out of 10. Maybe it's a 10 star. Yeah. But yeah, Tubi, Scariest Places in the World. Yeah.
Perfect. I love it. Once this episode comes out, y'all, don't worry. He'll be tagged everywhere, and you'll be able to find him. So
I'm okay with that.
I love it. So until next time, what's our third episode going to be? It's going to be about successes, pivots.
Yeah, successes and pivots.
Changing the flow. I love it. All right, Joshua, thank you so much for joining me today. It's always a pleasure. Really, really blessed and grateful that I met you and we get to climb the ladder together. So
likewise.
Cheers to that.